Hello, I'm Julia, and I've just learned the true meaning of betrayal. My sister's fiancé hit me with a lamp, and when I collapsed, my sister's first words were, "Don't blame him." Can you imagine? The one person I thought I could count on turned against me. But that wasn't the worst part. There's more, and it's even harder to believe. Keep watching to uncover the truth. Hook 2. My family tore me apart with lies. I thought it was just a small thing, but it was bigger, so much bigger. My sister's fiancé assaulted me, and she defended him. Why? What did they do to me, and what will it take to break free from the chains they've wrapped around me? The truth is ugly, but it's about to come out. Are you ready for it? It was supposed to be a simple dinner, just a gathering between family, something calm and relaxed. I had planned every detail of the evening. My apartment had been cleaned, the table set, and I even made sure to cook something everyone would enjoy. But even as the aroma of roasted chicken filled the room, I could sense the tension that was simmering beneath the surface. I had always felt like the afterthought in my family, especially when it came to my sister Katie. Sure, we were close when we were younger, but lately things had changed. It wasn't just her, though. The whole family seemed to think less of me. It was as though I was invisible, seen only when it was convenient for them. As the youngest, I was used to being overlooked. My older brother, Mason, was the golden child, and now, with Katie getting engaged to Marcus, it seemed like I was just another shadow in the background. When they arrived, Katie looked radiant in a way that I couldn't help but envy. I'd never been able to look that good effortlessly. And then there was Marcus. To be honest, I didn't trust him. There was something about the way he looked at me, something cold and dismissive. He always seemed to be one step away from snapping, and tonight, I could already feel the undercurrent of tension that surrounded him. We exchanged pleasantries, but the air between us was thick with unsaid words. I tried to keep my feelings in check as I served dinner, trying to pretend that everything was fine, but I could feel my stomach tightening with each passing second. It wasn't just about Marcus either. Katie had been distant lately, and it hurt. As we sat down, the conversation started innocuously enough. But then, as it often did, the topic of the wedding came up. Katie's eyes lit up as she spoke about the plans, but every time I tried to offer my thoughts, just simple suggestions about what I thought might be better, Katie snapped at me. It was like she had become a different person ever since she got engaged, as though her whole world revolved around Marcus and his opinions. I tried to stay calm, but it wasn't easy. I could feel the frustration bubbling up inside of me, the frustration of always being dismissed, always being treated like my voice didn't matter. And when Marcus chimed in, his voice dripping with condescension, something inside me finally snapped. "Julia, just let it go," he said, his tone harsh. I stared at him, the words burning in my chest. "I'm just trying to help," I said, my voice shaking despite my best efforts. "Not everything is about you, Julia," Katie snapped, her eyes flashing. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I hadn't expected Katie to defend him, but there she was, standing by his side as though she didn't even care that I was her sister. I opened my mouth to say something, but before I could, Marcus reached over, grabbing the lamp on the table. In one swift, violent motion, he swung it at me. I didn't even have time to react. The lamp crashed against my head, sending a jolt of pain through my skull. My body went limp, and everything around me seemed to blur. For a moment, there was nothing but darkness, a kind of thick, suffocating silence. When I regained my senses, I was on the floor, struggling to breathe. The pain in my head was overwhelming, but there was something else, something deeper, a kind of emptiness that I couldn't shake. And then I heard it. Katie's voice, cold and indifferent. "Don't blame him," she said. My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what was happening. How could she say that? How could she just defend him? I wanted to scream. I wanted to lash out at them both, but I couldn't. All I could do was lie there, the weight of the betrayal suffocating me. My own sister, the one person I thought I could trust. I could feel the bruises forming on my body, but the real pain, the real wound, was the one in my chest. The pain from her words, the pain of knowing that the person who should have been there for me, the person who I had always been there for, was the one to betray me in the most gut-wrenching way. My mind was spinning, the room tilting around me. I wanted to get up, to fight back, but my body wouldn't cooperate. The pain in my head, in my heart, was too much. I had always been the one to forgive, the one to put the pieces back together when everything fell apart. But not this time. I couldn't do it anymore. For the first time in my life, I realized that no matter how much I gave, no matter how much I sacrificed for them, it would never be enough. I had always been invisible to them. But now I knew I had to stop being the person they expected me to be. I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for them. I wouldn't. And as I lay there, the darkness swirling around me, I realized that something inside of me had changed. It wasn't just the physical pain anymore. It was deeper. This was the moment I stopped letting them walk all over me. I could feel the bruises forming, but the pain from my sister's words hurt more than the lamp ever could. I was still on the floor, my body trembling with shock, my head aching, and the weight of what had just happened slowly sinking in. I couldn't believe what had just occurred. Marcus had hit me. Hit me. A part of me couldn't even process the violence. How could it have escalated so quickly? A dinner with my family, a chance to finally get along, and it had turned into this. But what hurt more than the throbbing pain in my head was Katie's reaction. She hadn't even tried to help me. Instead, she had defended Marcus, her fiancé, as if my pain was just something she could ignore. "Don't blame him," she had said. Her words stung more than the physical blow. I felt betrayed, heartbroken, confused. I struggled to sit up, the pain in my skull sending ripples of nausea through me. My limbs felt heavy, as if they were no longer mine to command. But I forced myself up, each movement slow, deliberate. Every step was agony. I barely made it to the couch before my body collapsed, and I just sat there, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of it all. The warmth of the family I had once known felt like it had evaporated in an instant. I couldn't remember the last time I had felt truly seen or valued. My mind raced back to the years growing up, how my father's absence had left a void, how my mother always turned to Mason and now Katie, and how I had always been the one left to pick up the pieces. Katie had always been my closest family member, or so I thought. But now, with her siding with Marcus, someone I didn't trust, my world had been shattered. I couldn't understand how she could stand by someone who just hurt me. This wasn't just about the slap. It was about the years of being overlooked, the quiet years of watching her excel, watching her get everything she wanted while I was left to clean up the mess. I felt a hollow ache in my chest, a void I couldn't fill. I had always given, always been the one who understood, who forgave, who made excuses, but no more. Not this time. "Julia?" Katie's voice broke through the fog. I looked up, and there she stood, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't just been assaulted in front of her. "Don't talk to me," I muttered. My voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper, but the words hung heavy in the air. She stepped forward, her face pinched with frustration. "What's wrong with you? Why are you making this so difficult?" "Difficult? You're defending him," I snapped, finally standing up, though my legs wobbled beneath me. "You're standing by a man who just hit me, and you think I'm the problem?" Katie opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her eyes flickered over to Marcus, still standing by the door, as if waiting for the next step. There was a moment of silence, a moment I would never forget. And then, with a sigh, Katie said, "Don't blame him." It was as if the words sliced through me. The room seemed to tilt, and all I could hear was the ringing in my ears. How could she say that? How could she excuse his violence just like that? For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. And it wasn't just because of the assault. It was because of her, my sister, the one person who should have been there for me. "Don't blame him?" I echoed, my voice shaking with disbelief. "He just hit me, Katie. And you're still defending him? After everything?" Katie's eyes dropped to the floor, avoiding my gaze. Her silence spoke volumes, and it hit harder than anything Marcus had done. The pain of it crushed me, but it also woke something inside me, a fire that had been dormant for years, the fire I had suppressed in favor of being the good daughter. But no more. The sting of her betrayal fueled something in me. I wasn't going to be their doormat any longer. I wasn't going to keep sacrificing my own happiness for them. Not anymore. I turned away from Katie, unable to look at her for another second. I didn't know how much time passed, but it felt like an eternity before I pulled out my phone. I needed someone to talk to. Someone who would listen without judgment. Leslie. I called her, my hands shaking, but I couldn't let myself be weak. I couldn't crumble. "Leslie, I need you," I said the moment she picked up. "I'm on my way," she replied, no hesitation in her voice. And just like that, I knew everything would be okay. Leslie was here, and for the first time that night, I felt like I wasn't alone. When she arrived, her presence filled the room like a lifeline, steady and unwavering. She didn't ask questions, didn't demand explanations. She just listened. I poured everything out, every feeling, every ounce of anger and hurt I had kept inside for so long. "You're not alone," Leslie said, her voice gentle but firm. "This isn't the end, Julia. You're stronger than you think. You deserve respect." Her words washed over me like a wave of warmth. They were exactly what I needed to hear. I had spent so many years trying to be what my family wanted, trying to fix their problems, but in the process, I had lost myself. Now, I was starting to see a way out. I had a choice. I didn't have to keep being the good daughter, the one who always put others first. I could stand up for myself. I was stronger than I thought. As Leslie wrapped me in a tight hug, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let them use me anymore. I wasn't going to be the one to keep fixing everything while they treated me like I didn't matter. It was time to take control. The next morning, I did something I had never thought I would. I called the bank and withdrew my name as a guarantor for the house loan. I wasn't going to help Katie and Marcus build a life on my back when they had shown me nothing but disrespect. The moment I did it, a wave of satisfaction washed over me. I wasn't their punching bag anymore. I wasn't invisible. But as I sent the confirmation to the bank, I felt a flicker of anxiety. I knew this wouldn't be the end. This was just the beginning. My phone buzzed, and when I looked at the screen, my brother Mason's name flashed across it. "What did you do?" he texted. "The loan's been denied." I stared at the screen, my heart racing. I didn't know how far I'd just pushed them, but I knew this was the beginning of something that would change everything. The days following my decision to pull my name from the mortgage felt like an eternity. I wasn't sure if I was proud of what I'd done or completely terrified. I hadn't expected to feel both relief and guilt at the same time, but there it was, sitting heavy in my chest. I couldn't escape the fact that it wasn't just about a loan. This was about my life, my dignity, my family, who had never truly seen me. They'd always used me, and now they were angry because I wasn't willing to play the same role anymore. I sat in my apartment, alone. The silence felt like a weight pressing down on me. There was a part of me that wanted to call Katie, to explain, to make her understand. But then I remembered her words, "Don't blame him." And the thought of calling her made me sick to my stomach. She'd defended Marcus, the man who had physically hurt me, and I wasn't sure how much more I could take. It was hard to reconcile the sister I had loved with the one who had chosen him over me. The phone rang, and I didn't need to check the caller ID to know it was Katie. She'd been calling constantly since the night of the assault, but I hadn't answered. I couldn't. Not yet. I let the phone ring. The sound of it slicing through the quiet air was almost deafening, but I kept my hands folded in my lap, staring at the screen as it flashed Katie. I'd always answered her calls, always been there for her. But not this time. Not after what she'd done. The ringing stopped, and for a moment, everything felt still again. It was the silence that spoke the loudest now. No more pretending, no more bending over backward to please people who didn't care about me. I picked up my phone and sent a simple text. "I'm done." It was one of the hardest things I'd ever done, but I didn't look back. Minutes passed before my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Katie. It was Mason, my brother. He had always been the one who seemed to care, the one who showed up when I needed someone, or so I thought. "What did you do?" the message read. "The loan's been denied." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared at the screen, unable to move. It was as if the whole world had just come crashing down. Marcus and Katie weren't the only ones who had turned on me. Even Mason was siding with them. I swallowed hard, fighting the nausea that threatened to rise in my throat. It didn't matter. I had made my choice. I wasn't going to keep being the person they thought I was. I wasn't going to keep pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. But the betrayal still stung. I didn't know why it hurt so much. Maybe because I had always looked up to Mason. Maybe because I had wanted him to be the one person who could see me, the real me. But now, I felt just as invisible as I had when I was a child. I typed out a quick reply. It's done. I hit send and immediately regretted it. I had just cut them all out. The thought of the family gathering made my stomach churn. They were all waiting for me, expecting me to play along with their charade, their little family drama. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to sit there and pretend like nothing had happened, like they hadn't just dismissed my pain. But deep down, I knew I had to go. I needed to face them. As I walked into the living room to get ready, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I looked different now. There was something in my eyes, a resolve I hadn't known I had before. I wasn't the same person who would let them walk all over me anymore. I couldn't go back. The gathering was held at my parents' house. I knew exactly what to expect. The polite smiles, the carefully disguised discomfort. Mason would be there, and so would Katie, probably still pretending everything was fine, trying to ignore what had happened. The whole situation felt like a powder keg, and I was about to light the fuse. When I walked in, I immediately felt the tension in the room. It wasn't just me. I could tell Mason and Katie were uncomfortable, trying to avoid looking at me directly. But that didn't matter anymore. I wasn't going to let them make me feel small. "Julia, good to see you," my mom said, her tone a little too upbeat. She didn't hug me or even touch me, just a quick, mechanical greeting. "Thanks for inviting me," I said, my voice flat, offering no warmth. We all sat down at the dinner table, and it didn't take long for the conversation to shift. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach as I watched Katie glance at Marcus and then at me. It was clear they had already discussed it. This was going to be the elephant in the room. Mason was the first to bring it up, as expected. "So, Julia," he started, casually, as if we were just talking about the weather. "I heard you pulled your guarantee for the mortgage. What's up with that?" I could feel the anger rising in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. "I'm not willing to help you build a life when you've shown me nothing but disrespect," I said, meeting his gaze. "You've chosen him over me, and I can't keep pretending like nothing's wrong." The room fell silent. Katie's face went red, and Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Well, that's pretty harsh, don't you think?" Mason said, his tone defensive. "We're family, Julia. We're just trying to get things in order." Katie joined in, trying to ease the tension. "You're overreacting. It's not like Marcus meant it." I stared at her, the words catching in my throat. "Not like Marcus meant it? Katie, he hit me. You can't just brush that off. You can't just excuse it." But Mason wasn't done. "It's just a family fight, Julia. It happens." I stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. My heart was pounding in my chest. "You're all the same," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "You just let him do whatever he wants. You let him hurt me, and you don't even care. None of you do." The room was silent for a long time, except for my heavy breathing. They didn't say anything more. I could feel the weight of their indifference pressing down on me, suffocating me. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned and walked toward the door. "I'm done," I said, my voice breaking. Katie called after me, but I didn't stop. "You're making a mistake, Julia," Mason said from behind me. But it didn't matter. I wasn't going to stay and let them treat me like this anymore. The following days after my decision to sever ties with my family felt like they were dragging on endlessly. At night, I'd lie awake, replaying everything in my head, asking myself if I had done the right thing. The uncertainty gnawed at me, but there was also a strange sense of peace buried beneath the self-doubt. It wasn't just about pulling my name from the mortgage, it was about everything. About finally standing up for myself, about refusing to be the invisible one in my family anymore. I sat in my apartment one evening, staring at the phone that sat untouched on the coffee table. Katie had been calling non-stop, and every time I saw her name flash on the screen, I couldn't bring myself to answer. I wasn't sure what she'd say. I didn't want to hear her excuses or her attempts to make me feel guilty. I had made my choice. And yet, there was this lingering, aching pull inside me to make everything right again. The guilt felt like a weight on my chest, but so did the relief. I was free from the expectations, from the suffocating need to please everyone else. Leslie, as usual, had been my rock. I couldn't talk to my family, but I could talk to her. She knew exactly how much this was hurting me. She had told me over and over that I was stronger than I thought, and I needed to believe that. But in the silence of my apartment, it was hard to believe anything. The phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Katie. "Why are you doing this, Julia? This isn't you." I stared at the message, the words twisting in my gut. She was right. It wasn't me. But it had to be. With trembling fingers, I typed out a reply. "I'm doing what's best for me, Katie." I hit send before I could second-guess myself, setting the phone down with a shaky exhale. But the next day, everything changed. Katie showed up at my apartment, her face a mixture of anger and hurt, and the moment she stepped inside, I knew what was coming. "You're making a huge mistake, Julia," she spat, her voice sharp. "You've ruined everything." "Everything?" I repeated, the sting of her words hitting harder than I expected. "You're still defending him, Katie? After everything he did?" Katie's eyes hardened, and I saw the wall go up. "You've ruined our lives. Do you even realize what you've done? You've made a public scene, embarrassed us, and now you're taking everything away. What kind of sister are you?" I felt the familiar sense of betrayal rising in my chest again. The way she looked at me, like I was the one in the wrong, it was unbearable. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice tight. "I'm not sorry for standing up for myself. I'm not sorry for finally realizing I don't need to play the victim anymore, and I'm sure as hell not sorry for taking my life back." Katie's face flushed with anger. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She stood there, staring at me like I was some stranger. I'd never felt more alone in my life, but before she could speak again, Marcus entered the room, his usual smug grin plastered on his face. He took one look at me and immediately launched into his usual manipulation. "You know," he started, his voice dripping with condescension, "you've made a real mess of things. I hope you're proud of yourself. I mean, what's next? Are you going to drag everyone down with you?" I stood my ground, my heart pounding in my chest. "You don't get to talk to me like that anymore, Marcus. I'm done being your punching bag." His eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, I saw the flicker of genuine anger behind his facade. "You think this is over?" he said, taking a step closer. "You'll regret this. I'll make sure of it." I felt my stomach drop, but I didn't flinch. I wasn't going to be intimidated. I wasn't going to be scared into submission. "You're not going to intimidate me anymore," I said, my voice steady, even though my insides were shaking. And neither are you, Katie. I've had enough." Katie's mouth opened and closed like she was about to say something, but nothing came out. Marcus, on the other hand, was getting more agitated. I could see the anger in his eyes, but I wasn't backing down. "I don't care what you do, Marcus," I said, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "You won. You got what you wanted. I'm not playing along anymore. I'm not your victim." Katie finally spoke, but it wasn't what I expected. "You're throwing everything away for nothing. I can't believe you're doing this. You're tearing this family apart." I felt the last of my patience snap. "You know what, Katie? Maybe it's time this family got torn apart. Maybe it's time I stopped pretending. You've always treated me like I don't matter. I'm done." As I turned to walk away, I knew I had just crossed a line I could never uncross. The weight of the years I had spent bending and breaking for them was gone. I wasn't their little sister anymore. I wasn't their punching bag. I was something different now. Stronger, more sure of myself than I had ever been. Just as I reached the door, Katie's voice stopped me. "You're making a mistake," she said, her voice breaking. I turned around slowly. "No, I'm not." The night after the confrontation with Marcus and Katie, I sat in my apartment, the silence overwhelming. My mind kept circling back to the same thoughts. Had I really done the right thing? Was walking away from my family the right choice, even if it felt like the only option left? The weight of the decision hit me in waves. I had never imagined that cutting ties could feel like both a victory and a loss at the same time. I tried to push the doubts aside. This was my choice. I could feel the tremor of self-doubt, but it wasn't the same as before. Now, there was something stronger underneath it. Empowerment. My fingers hovered over my phone as I stared at the screen. No messages from Katie, no apologies, no attempt at reconciliation. Just silence. But it was a silence that spoke volumes. I remembered something Leslie had told me the day I made the call to the bank. Cutting toxic ties is the first step to healing, Julia. But healing isn't a straight path. It's going to hurt, but that's what strength feels like. Her words echoed in my mind, louder now. I was doing the right thing. Still, as I lay in bed, the quiet of the apartment filled with the sound of my own thoughts, I couldn't shake the feeling of being completely disconnected. My family's anger, their disappointment, it all felt suffocating. I had no idea how they were processing everything, but I was sure of one thing. They would never see me the same way again. That part hurt more than I expected. The next day, Katie called again. I didn't pick up. I couldn't. I couldn't sit through another round of manipulation. Instead, I sent a simple text. I'm not going back. I've made my decision. Later that afternoon, the doorbell rang. I knew who it was before I even stood up. Katie. She stood there, visibly upset. She hadn't come to talk. She came to force me to listen. You've really done it now, Julia, she started, her voice breaking as she stepped inside. Do you know what you've done? You've ruined everything. Marcus, our future. You've ruined it all. The anger in her voice made my chest tighten. What are you talking about? I did this for me. I've spent my life doing everything for you, for all of you. I've always been the one to give and give until there was nothing left. And now when I finally make a decision for myself, you turn it into a betrayal. Katie's eyes were wide, pleading with me. You're not thinking straight. You don't know what this will cost us. Our lives are in ruins now because of your actions. I shook my head. No, Katie. What you're really saying is that you don't want to see the truth. I've been invisible my whole life, and now I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of pretending everything's okay when you and Marcus walk all over me. She opened her mouth to say something else, but Marcus stepped in, cutting her off. Enough of this, he said, his tone icy. You've made your choice, Julia. But don't think for a second there won't be consequences. You'll regret this, trust me. I felt my blood boil. You don't get to threaten me anymore, Marcus, I said, my voice cold but firm. I'm not afraid of you. I'm done with this. With all of this. Your lies, your manipulation. I'm done. Katie's face turned red, and her voice trembled. You don't get it, do you? You're tearing us apart, Julia. You've destroyed everything we worked for. I stood tall, my resolve solidifying in the face of her anger. No, Katie, I didn't destroy anything. You did this. All of you did. You've been tearing me apart for years, and I've been too blind to see it. With that, I turned and walked toward the door. I couldn't stay in that room any longer, couldn't listen to the lies they kept feeding me. I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me as I stepped out into the cool evening air, but it was fleeting. I knew this was just the beginning. The next few days were a whirlwind. Marcus and Katie's attempts to call and text went unanswered. I wasn't going to let them control me anymore, but even as I fortified myself, I could feel the pressure mounting. The family was in chaos, and I was at the center of it all. One afternoon, as I was walking through the local park, trying to clear my head, I saw Marcus. He was standing near the fountain, his eyes fixed on me as I walked by. He must have been waiting for me. Without thinking, I approached him. What do you want, Marcus? I asked, my voice tight. He smirked, crossing his arms. I want you to realize what you've done, Julia. You're not going to get away with this. You've made a mess of everything, and I'll make sure everyone knows just how much you've screwed up. I didn't flinch. You're the one who's messed up, Marcus, and I'm not playing by your rules anymore. His eyes flashed with anger, and he stepped closer to me. You'll regret this. I can promise you that. I took a deep breath, holding his gaze. No, I won't. I'm done. And you're not going to control me anymore. He sneered, but I saw the anger flicker in his eyes. He wasn't used to people standing up to him, especially not me. As I turned to walk away, I could feel the weight of everything lifting. I wasn't backing down anymore. I wasn't going to be the person they wanted me to be. That evening, I called Leslie. I needed to talk, needed her perspective on everything that had happened. She listened carefully, offering advice and encouragement. You're doing the right thing, Julia, but now you need to be smart about it. Don't just react. Take control. Her words stuck with me. I hadn't been proactive until now. I had always reacted to whatever life threw my way, always thinking I had to be the one to fix things. But not anymore. It was time to take control of my life, to make sure no one could use me again. The next morning, I sat down and started making a plan. I'd start documenting everything, every threat from Marcus, every subtle manipulation from Katie. I wouldn't let them take advantage of me anymore. I was ready to take control. As I finished writing, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The message was simple. I know what you've been doing, Julia, and I have something you need to see. My heart skipped a beat. Could this be the proof I had been waiting for? Or was it just another empty threat? I stared at the screen, unsure of what to do next. I sat alone in my apartment, the weight of everything pressing down on me. The silence that had become so familiar over the past few months now felt suffocating. My mind, exhausted from the constant emotional turmoil, drifted back to the night when everything changed. Walking away from my family was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it was also the only thing that made sense. Still, the emptiness lingered, gnawing at me. I was at a breaking point. I knew it. The quiet moments like these, when no one was around to judge or manipulate, were when the truth became clear. I had spent so long trying to keep the peace, trying to keep everyone happy, but in the end, I had lost myself in the process. What good was being the peacekeeper when no one else cared enough to do the same? What good was it to keep pretending things were fine when everything inside me was breaking? I had no idea how I had gotten here, how my family had pushed me so far. But now, in the calm before the storm, I realized that this had to end. I had to confront the truth, no matter the consequences. And for the first time in a long time, I felt ready. I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. I had been quiet for too long, letting the lies and manipulations slide, but no more. It was time to act. As the day went on, my mind churned through the events that had brought me to this point. I thought about Marcus and the subtle way he'd manipulated everyone around him, making me feel small and powerless. I thought about Katie and her refusal to see the truth, to acknowledge what was really happening. But more than anything, I thought about the life I'd been living, the one I had allowed to slip through my fingers because I was too afraid to stand up for myself. I wasn't afraid anymore. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Check your email. It's time. I stared at the screen, my pulse quickening. Was this it? Was this the moment I had been waiting for? I had to know. I opened my inbox, my hands trembling slightly as I clicked on the message. It was a document, one that didn't belong to me. It was from Marcus's email address, a conversation between him and someone else. The contents made my stomach turn. The email detailed a plan to discredit me, to ruin my reputation, to make sure that I would never get in the way again. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal, but also a strange clarity. This was the final straw. I had been right all along. He wasn't just manipulating me, he was actively plotting against me, and Katie was too blind to see it. No more. I had the proof now. But the decision to act wasn't easy. I could feel the fear creeping in, the anxiety about what would come next. I was about to take a step I couldn't take back. It was terrifying, but it was also liberating. I wasn't going to be silent anymore. I wasn't going to let anyone, not even my own family, destroy me. The next day, I gathered the evidence. I printed out the emails, the messages, everything I had. It was time to expose Marcus for who he really was. I couldn't let him manipulate me anymore. I couldn't let him control my life. but I couldn't do it alone. I called Leslie. She answered on the second ring, her voice warm and steady. "What's going on, Jules?" "I need your help," I said, my voice tight. "I've found something that can finally put an end to this." There was a pause on the other end. Then she said, "You've got this. I'll be with you every step of the way." I breathed a sigh of relief. Leslie had always been my anchor, the one person I could trust without question. And now, more than ever, I needed that. But as I made my plan, I couldn't shake the feeling that things were spiraling out of my control. What would happen when I confronted Marcus? What would Katie say? What if everything fell apart even further? No, I couldn't let fear stop me. I had already lost too much to be afraid of losing more. I prepared for the inevitable confrontation, gathering my strength and the evidence I needed. I would show them the truth. I would show them what they had done to me. That afternoon, I found myself standing outside the family's office space, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. The moment I had been avoiding was here. I wasn't backing down anymore. Inside, the tension was palpable. Marcus stood near the window, Katie sitting beside him, her arms crossed. The air was thick with unspoken words, the weight of everything hanging over us. I walked in, my footsteps sure and steady. "I know what you've been doing, Marcus, and I'm done. I'm done letting you manipulate me." Katie's face faltered for a second, but then she quickly recovered, looking at me with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "You don't understand, Julia. This is about our family, about us. You're ruining everything." "No," I said, my voice calm but unwavering. "You're ruining everything. You, Marcus, all of you. But not anymore. I've seen the truth, and I'm not staying silent. I have the evidence." I placed the printed documents on the table, watching their expressions shift. Marcus's face went pale, his jaw tightening. Katie looked like she might be sick. "You're lying," Marcus spat, his voice low and dangerous. "No, Marcus," I said, feeling a calmness wash over me. "You're the one who's been lying, and now it's over." Katie stood up, her voice trembling. "I can't believe this. You're going to ruin everything." I shook my head, my resolve firm. "No, I'm not the one ruining things. You are." As I turned to leave, the silence behind me felt suffocating. I knew this was just the beginning. The fight wasn't over yet, but I had taken the first step. That evening, I sat in my apartment, replaying the confrontation over and over in my mind. There was no turning back now, and then my phone buzzed again. Another message, from an anonymous number. "Meet me tomorrow. I have something you need to see." I froze, my heart skipping a beat. Was this it? The final piece of the puzzle? I didn't know what to expect, but I was ready. The moment I had dreaded for so long was finally here. My heart was pounding in my chest as I walked into the room where Marcus and Katie were waiting. They had no idea what was coming. The evidence I had carefully collected, the texts, the emails, everything was now my weapon, and I was ready to use it. As I stepped inside, Marcus's eyes immediately narrowed. Katie barely glanced up, her arms crossed tightly in front of her. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to choke anyone who stepped into it. I couldn't let the fear take hold, not this time. I had prepared myself for this moment. The time for silence was over. "I know what you've been doing," I said, my voice calm but unwavering. Marcus scoffed, a smirk spreading across his face. "You've always been dramatic, Julia, ruining everything just to make yourself feel important." His voice was laced with venom, but it didn't shake me. Katie shifted uncomfortably beside him but stayed quiet, her gaze avoiding mine. I could see the confusion in her eyes, the way she was trying to ignore the inevitable. But there was no turning back now. "You're the one ruining everything," I shot back. "All of you, manipulating me, trying to control everything. You think I haven't noticed?" Marcus's eyes darkened. "You don't know what you're talking about. You're overreacting, like always." His words stung, but they didn't break me. "No, Marcus. I've seen the emails. I've seen the texts. I know exactly what you're doing. Katie's face went pale, but she still didn't speak. It was as if she couldn't bring herself to confront the truth. She wasn't ready for this, didn't want to face it. Marcus, though, he was different. He was furious now, his jaw clenched tight, and his fists were balled at his sides. You don't know what you're saying. This is all your fault. You're the one who's ruining this family. No one can trust you anymore. His words cut deep, but they didn't break me. I felt the anger rising in my chest, but this time it wasn't anger that would consume me. It was strength. You're a liar, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but each word was like a punch. You've been lying to all of us, and I'm not going to stand by and let you destroy me. Katie finally spoke, her voice trembling with emotion. Stop it, Julia. You're overreacting. Why do you have to make everything so complicated? He's my fiancé and I love him. Can't you just let it go? Let it go. Those words hit me harder than anything Marcus had said. I stared at her, my sister, the one person I had thought I could trust, the one person I had always been there for, and now she was asking me to let it go. Let him get away with everything. Let them get away with tearing me apart. No, I said, my voice strong. I won't let it go. Not this time. You can't make me feel guilty for standing up for myself. You can't make me feel small anymore. Katie recoiled as though I had slapped her. Her face twisted with a mixture of anger and confusion. You're being dramatic. This isn't how family works. You're supposed to support me, not tear me down. I could barely comprehend what she was saying. How had it come to this? How had my sister become the person who was defending him, the person who had once been my closest ally? My heart ached, but I couldn't let it show. I wouldn't let it break me. You've chosen him over me, I said softly, the hurt in my voice impossible to hide. And that's something I can't fix. You've made your choice. Marcus sneered. I think it's pretty clear who the problem is here, Julia. It's always been you. I felt the anger boiling inside of me, but I couldn't let it control me. Not anymore. I had come too far to back down now. I was done being the victim. I was done letting them manipulate me. And I stood tall, feeling the weight of the decisions I had made, the courage growing stronger within me. This was the moment. This was my stand. You think I'm the problem? I said, my voice rising. I'm not the problem. I'm done being your punching bag. I'm done being the one you walk all over. You can't manipulate me anymore, Marcus. And Katie, you can't hide behind your loyalty to him when you know what's really going on. Katie opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off. No, don't try to defend him. Not this time. I've had enough. Marcus stepped forward, his face twisted in rage. You'll regret this. You're ruining everything for all of us. I met his gaze head on, not flinching. No, you're the one ruining everything. And I'm done letting you control my life. There was a moment of silence. Katie stood there, her arms still crossed, her face pale, her eyes filled with uncertainty. Marcus was seething, but I could see the doubt creeping in. The power had shifted. For the first time, I felt in control. I wasn't asking for approval anymore. I wasn't begging for understanding. I was standing up for myself, for my truth. Do what you have to do, Marcus, I said, my voice steady. But I'm not backing down. Not now, not ever. The tension in the room was thick, almost unbearable. But I stood my ground, resolute in my decision. As I turned to leave, I felt a strange calm wash over me. I had taken control. For the first time in a long time, I had done something for myself. And I wasn't going to let anything or anyone take that from me. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I froze when I saw the text. Meet me. I have something you need to see. Could this be the breakthrough I had been waiting for? Or was it another trap? It had been a long, exhausting road, but in the quiet moments before the storm, I found clarity. Standing in front of my bedroom mirror, I took in a deep breath, letting the air fill my lungs. The reflection staring back at me wasn't the same person who had entered this journey. No longer was I a victim of circumstance, hiding behind guilt or fear. No longer was I the person who let others manipulate me, who let them dictate my worth. This was my moment. I had been through hell, but now I was standing taller, stronger. My mind was clear, my resolve firm. I could feel the weight of what I was about to do. It wasn't going to be easy, facing Marcus again, facing Katie. This time, there would be no turning back. I wasn't going to let their lies and manipulation tear me apart any longer. The truth had been uncovered, and now it was time for them to face the consequences. Marcus's face flashed in my mind. His threats, his lies, his manipulation. But there was no fear this time. Just a steady certainty that I was done. I had gathered the evidence, collected the pieces of their deceit, and now I was ready to make it known. It was time for the final confrontation. I grabbed my phone, looking at the message I had received earlier, the one that promised to change everything. My heart beat faster as I read it again. "Meet me. I have something you need to see." Could this be the answer? Or was it just another lie? But I couldn't let doubt stop me. No more hesitation. I was stronger now. The storm was coming, and I was ready for it. The day of the confrontation arrived. Marcus and Katie were sitting in the living room when I walked in. The air was thick with tension, each of us knowing what was about to unfold. Marcus's eyes flicked to me, the same coldness in them that had always been there. But today, there was something different in my eyes, something he hadn't seen before. "I know what you've been doing," I said, my voice steady but firm. Marcus's lips curled into a tight smile, his usual arrogance on full display. "What's this about now, Julia? You've been acting crazy lately. Is this some kind of stunt to get attention?" I didn't flinch. "No. This is about the truth, the lies, the manipulation, the way you've been controlling everything. I won't stand for it anymore." Katie shifted uncomfortably beside him, but didn't speak. She knew what was coming, but didn't want to face it. Marcus laughed, a harsh sound that grated against my nerves. "You're the one ruining everything, Julia. It's always been you. Always making a scene, making problems where there are none." "No, Marcus, it's you," I shot back. "You've been manipulating everyone, especially Katie. You think I didn't see it? I've got the proof." I pulled out the phone, showing them the evidence. His face twisted with anger as he stood up, his hands clenched into fists. "You think this will change anything?" he sneered. "You think you can just walk in here and—" "I'm done with your games," I interrupted, my voice rising. "This time, I'm not backing down. I've been silent for too long and I won't let you control me anymore." Katie finally spoke, her voice shaking. "Julia, stop. This is getting out of hand. You're blowing this all out of proportion. You're ruining everything between us." I looked at her, disbelief washing over me. "You're still defending him? After everything? After everything he's done? This is your choice, Katie?" Her face was pale, her lips trembling. "I'm not the one who's wrong here. You are. You always have to make everything harder than it needs to be." The words stung, but I held my ground. "I'm not wrong. I'm standing up for myself, finally. I'm done with this toxic relationship. I won't be part of it anymore." Katie's face twisted in a mix of guilt and anger. "I can't believe you're doing this." "I don't want to choose between you and him, but you already have," I interrupted softly. "You've made your choice." The weight of those words hit me like a ton of bricks. This was it. The moment that would change everything. The bond we once shared, my sister, the one person I thought I could trust, was now broken. I turned to Marcus, my resolve hardening. "I'm done. I'm walking away from you both. I'll never be a part of this toxic mess again." Marcus's expression shifted from anger to something darker, more dangerous. "You'll regret this, Julia. You're making a mistake." But there was no fear in me anymore. "No, Marcus. The only mistake I made was staying quiet for so long. Not anymore." I turned to leave, but the last sting came from Katie. "You're breaking my heart, Julia. You're destroying everything." Her words hung in the air, but they didn't make me falter. I had made my decision. There was no going back now. I was free. The aftermath was more painful than I had anticipated. My family, fractured and broken, seemed irreparable. I could feel the weight of their disapproval pressing down on me. But there was something else now, a new strength within me. As I sat in my quiet space, taking a moment to reflect on everything, I realized I had made the right choice. I had stood up for myself, and that was worth everything. But just when I thought I could find peace, a message pinged on my phone, and my heart raced. It was from an unknown number. "I know what happened. I can help." Could this be the turning point I had been waiting for? Or was it another trap? The weight of the last few months still hung over me, but today felt different. I was standing at a crossroads, the path forward clear, yet daunting. I had spent so much of my life allowing others to dictate my choices, my sister, Marcus, my family, but no longer. Now it was time for me to decide what I wanted, what I needed. The past had shaped me, but it no longer had control over me. I had survived the storm, and now I was going to rebuild, stronger and wiser than before. I stood in front of my desk, a blank page before me. I picked up the pen and began writing, listing everything I had learned over the last year, the painful lessons, the victories, and the realization that my worth wasn't tied to anyone's approval. I was enough, just as I was. With each word I wrote, I felt the weight of my decisions settle into place. The past no longer held power over me. I was taking my life back, piece by piece. I paused for a moment, the weight of it all sinking in. This wasn't just about moving on. It was about breaking free, severing the toxic ties. I picked up my phone, hesitated for a moment, then made the call I had to make. I was cutting ties, for good. The days after that call were a blur. I threw myself into rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy, but each step forward felt like a small victory. I started reconnecting with the people who truly cared for me, the ones who saw me for who I was, not who they wanted me to be. Leslie was there, as always. Her unwavering support made the rebuilding process more bearable. We talked about everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. She was the friend I had been lucky enough to keep. We reminisced about the past, laughed about old stories, and talked about the future. I also started reaching out to people I had lost touch with over the years, old friends, acquaintances. Slowly but surely, I was building a new support system, one that was based on honesty, love, and respect. A support system that didn't involve manipulation or guilt. One day, while catching up with Leslie over coffee, she told me something that stuck with me. "You've always had the strength in you, Julia. You just had to find it. Now look at you. You're creating a life that's truly yours." Her words stayed with me. I was creating my own life. I was taking charge. As the weeks passed, I found myself at a crossroads again. I had been so focused on rebuilding my life that I hadn't truly thought about forgiveness. Could I forgive the people who had hurt me? Could I let go of the anger that still simmered inside me? It wasn't about excusing their actions. It was about freeing myself from the weight of that anger. I knew that if I held on to it, I would be chained to the past forever. I stood in front of the mirror, just as I had done when I first made my decision to break free. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath, and let it all go. The anger, the hurt, the bitterness. I wasn't going to carry it anymore. I wrote a letter to myself that day. It wasn't to anyone else. It was for me. I forgave myself for all the things I'd accepted and allowed, for the silence I'd kept, for the moments I'd doubted my worth. I wasn't going to carry that guilt anymore. With that weight lifted, I started to focus on what truly mattered. I enrolled in a painting class, something I had always wanted to try. It wasn't just about art, it was about pursuing something for me. I also started working on a project that had always been in the back of my mind, something that brought me joy and challenged me in ways I never expected. It felt good, really good. As I spent time focusing on what made me happy, I realized how much I had neglected my own dreams for so long. The fear of disappointing others had kept me small, but not anymore. I was embracing the things that made me feel alive. I began to notice something else too, something that hadn't been on my radar before. As I changed, others started to notice. Leslie commented one evening, "You're different, Julia. You've come so far. It's inspiring." And she wasn't the only one. I began to hear from friends and family members who had seen me struggle, who had been watching from the sidelines. They told me how proud they were of my transformation, how they admired my courage. And I started to realize something. My strength wasn't just mine anymore, it was spreading. It was inspiring others to break free from their own chains, to take control of their lives. It was humbling, and for the first time, I felt a sense of purpose beyond myself. The change within me had been significant, but the real test, I knew, was in how I would handle the future. The past no longer controlled me, but I was still learning to embrace the present and the future. I stood on my balcony one evening, the sun setting in the distance. I could feel the quiet strength within me, the same strength that had carried me through the darkest days. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy. There would be bumps along the way, more challenges to face. But I had done the hardest part. I had broken free. I had reclaimed my life. Just as I thought I was finding peace, an unexpected message arrived. It was from someone I didn't expect, a name I hadn't seen in months. "I have something that might change everything." I stared at the message, my heart racing. Was this the final test? Or was it another trap?